Production. Back about 3.5, 4 years ago, my sweetie said, I want to do an adventure for my birthday instead of having a birthday party. So she found this dig going on in North Dakota, which is right across the river from where we live, sponsored by the North Dakota Geological Survey. And she had a great time. So she went back a couple of years later, had a great time again. And we asked Becky, who is the dig leader for us, if she'd do a little presentation for the group today. And she said, oh, I'd love to. So all the way from Fargo or Bismarck, North Dakota, here's Becky Barnes. You're on, young lady. And oh, one more thing. If you'd mute yourself until the presentation is done, then you can unmute and ask questions. Okay? You're on, Becky.
Well, thank you for having me. I'd like to preface this by saying, as you can see, this is not my normal office space. I am also working from home right now to facilitate my daughter's distance learning. And as such, we happen to have a cat who is stone deaf. So hopefully the microphone doesn't pick it up, but if at some point you hear this wowering coming from the background, I have the doors closed and everything, but he is insanely loud, especially at 4:30 in the morning. So if he decides to make his presence known, I apologize ahead of time. All right, let's see if we can get this to work for sharing presentation. Sharing screen. All right, and let me know if you're not going to be, if you can't see this. Everybody see that so far?
Yep, all you have to do is start slideshow.
Yep, trying to get it to go. There it goes. Everybody see the full screen now? Good to go?
Yes, good to go.
All right, woohoo. It's always, yeah, always got to make sure it works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So yes, welcome to Shale Sliding with Bev, a sea adventure with no water in sight, except for way down at the bottom of the gorge. So this particular fossil site actually has no dinosaurs. We deal up in North Dakota with a number of different fossil sites across the state, spanning many different time zones, which actually makes North Dakota pretty cool because many other states tend to have just one time zone associated with them at the surface. And North Dakota, because the glaciers that came down from Canada, acting like giant bulldozers, crushing everything in before them, kind of squashed some stuff and uplifted other stuff. And so we have a whole variety of rocks sitting at our surface. Everything from this site, which happens to be one of the oldest surface rocks of North Dakota, through all the way up to essentially the Ice Age, which is pretty neat. So at this point in time, this is the late Cretaceous Western Interior Seaway. We're dealing with a body of water that has split North America in half. So it stretches all the way from the Arctic Ocean, all the way down to what is modern day Gulf of Mexico. And where I'm sitting here in Bismarck, North Dakota, would have been either underwater or like right at beachfront property. But for where we were up in the Pembina Gorge, way up in the northeastern corner of North Dakota. Closest city would be Walhalla, if you wanted to find it on a map. Not Pembina, it's the Pembina Gorge, but not Pembina. Then that would have been right smack dab, right in the middle of this seaway, which is pretty cool. Now, this is a very shallow sea. We're not talking about as deep as an ocean, but it's deep enough to support a vast array of sea life. And these things tend to pop out of the ground. And at this particular site that we're working at, it is actually a road cut. And so we're actually widening and helping to stabilize that road as we're working. Here's our North Dakota, yay! And it would have looked something a little bit more like this, where you've got this mix of open ocean, you've got your beachfront property over by where Bismarck would be, and then right where that star is, that would have been that Pembina Gorge area. So just right in the middle of the ocean. Just kind of weird to think about because North Dakota is not what you think about when you think about oceans. It's flat, there's nothing out here. Now, what's really cool about this site, like I said, it's this road cut. You can see the road down in the bottom right-hand corner here. And we've got a person leaning on the edge of a freshly exposed road cut of this area. And it is lined with all of these lighter colored bands. And those bands are actually volcanic ash. So all of this darker gray material that's just we call it marine snow. It's actually the same stuff that produces oil, but much, much younger. So the oil producing layer thousands of feet below us. So think of like the big Bakken Shale that North Dakota is known for right now. This is a much, much, much younger shale. And so this is all of the stuff that sinks down in the ocean, all of the carcasses, all of the plankton, all the leftover bits and pieces tends to rain down continuously, creating the sludge that's on the bottom of your ocean. So that's all this gray stuff. And at the same time, the Rocky Mountains off to the west are brand new. They're uplifting from the ground and they are cranky. And so they're spewing forth volcanic gases and eruptions, and those eruptions are layering ash down in our neck of the woods. So we get all of these different layers of volcanic ash, which actually works really conveniently for marker beds. When we're digging, if we're digging right here to the left of the person, we see this nice big thick band of gray, and we're digging way to the right of the person, we can connect those bands together in order to see, are we in the same time area? Or is this fossil older or younger? Were they at about the same time? And so we can actually figure out how things died in relation to each other. So it's pretty helpful. So these big volcanoes off in the west. This is a little bit higher up in our fossil bench, in our rock layers. And we've cleared out a whole big section where, I mean, these sections of ash are anywhere between 3 and 6 inches thick in some cases. So that is not just a tiny volcanic eruption. That's a big boom. And so we get all of this volcanic ash that's coming down, and we don't find fossils in the ash. We're finding fossils above, we're finding fossils below, sandwiched in between, but not actually inside the ash. Now, that could just be because the ash is so acidic that it's actually dissolving away a lot of your bones and fossils, but we're not 100% sure why that's the case. All right, so here is our little map of North Dakota. All of the counties in red are counties that have this shale formation within it. All of the counties in green are the ones where we have found fossils within that particular rock layer. Now, just because we have that rock layer in an area doesn't necessarily mean we're going to find fossils, but it is a starting point that helps us know where to look for those fossils. This is a shot from on top of our fossil layer, looking down towards the road that we drive up to the site on, into the Pembina Gorge area. And this is, I don't know if many of you have been up to the North Dakota area, but usually when you think of North Dakota, it's flat, it's badlandsy, there's no trees. I mean, the telephone poles are our state trees, right? So you just get, there's nothing out here. But then you head to that northeastern corner where the Pembina Gorge is, and it's just weird. It's breathtaking, it's gorgeous. There's old oak forests and aspen forests that are growing within this gorge. And this has been carved out by the melting of the glaciers that once covered the northeastern corner of North Dakota. So as they were melting, they released tons of water, and this water scoured down through the rocks, creating the little Pembina River, and in the process, this giant Pembina Gorge. And so this is a non-typical area of North Dakota. but very gorgeous, as it were, place to be. It's a very nice place to visit. In some instances, when we have cleared off a bunch of that fossil layer, then we bring in some heavy equipment, and we can get in bobcats and front end loaders in order to start pushing back some of that hillside, because off to the right of this machinery is a straight drop down. So shale is not a stable material. It is not good to build roads with. It turns to slime and snot when it gets wet, and it will just slough off the side of the hill. And so this road is continuously falling down into the gorge. And so part of our goal then is to, for the few locals that are using this road, is to keep it maintained. There have been some votes as to shutting down the road, but they haven't made any decisions yet. But as long as the road stays open, then it's part of our job to take care of the fossils that would get run into, that the heavy equipment would hit. So we have to make sure it's one pickaxe at a time to go through a lot of this material, searching for any potential fossils that would be in the way. Here's a fossil. Doesn't look like a whole lot right now, but we have a mosasaur backbone. The gloved hand is pointing to a one vertebra, one backbone from a mosasaur, a big marine reptile that lived at the same time as dinosaurs, kind of like a Komodo dragon with flippers. So similar to, but not a dinosaur. And so that was one of the key features in here that told us, hey, there's not just rock here, there's some actual fossil material in here. We need to slow down, take a look, and examine through these layers and see what's here. So here's our big friendly mosasaur who just wants a hug with his teeth. So big Komodo dragon's reptile, lived at the same time as dinosaurs, had flippers for feet, and a nice long fluked tail, much like a shark would have. And actually, you can't really see it in this picture, but they actually had a second set of teeth in the roof of their mouth as well. So if you were an unlucky little fish or squid that came across one of these, you weren't going anywhere but down. Lots and lots of pointy teeth. And because they're reptiles, they shed their teeth. So just like crocodiles, just like dinosaurs, they actually lose their teeth and regrow new ones as the animal ages. So they didn't have to worry about brushing their teeth. They didn't have to worry about going to the dentist. They always had replacement teeth. And because of that, we actually can come across isolated shed teeth out there as well. So that means that the root has been reabsorbed into the jaw, and it's just kind of fallen out of the mouth, but then you'll get a little baby tooth that's growing right below it. So we actually do find the occasional shed tooth out there as well. Here we have our mosasaur quarry. So from 2012 to 2014, we've been working on a partial mosasaur skeleton, and we had found a good chunk of the animal, all the way from the very tip of the tail where you had teeny tiny vertebra tailbones the size of your thumbnail, all the way up through the hips, not so much into the flippers. We got some of the leg bones, but the flippers just kind of tend to rot away and rattle apart. But we got some of the hip bones, the leg bones, up into the lower back, some ribs that we went all the way up, and we're hitting the neck, we're through the trunk. This is so great. And it stopped. No skull. Okay, well, we'll come back the next year and we'll keep looking. Hopefully we find a skull. Because, I mean, bones and skeletons are great and all, but I mean, everybody wants to see teeth, right? Everybody wants to see the skull. Who is it? And this isn't like The Masked Singer where you can't see anything. It's you want to know who it is. And so we had to come back year after year, pushing this hillside back, trying to find the rest of the animal. Here in white, we have that animal. The brown bones are a separate specimen that were found over by Cooperstown. So a different animal entirely, but it's showing about the position of the head. But here we have the teeny tiny tips of the tailbone from the blue arrow stretching all the way across the backbone into the ribs and the paddles up into where the neck would be. And like I say, it just stopped. But okay, we'll come back the next year and we'll keep looking. Well, 2015, we get a call from Parks and Rec saying, yeah, there were some people wandering up there and they found a jaw. And we're like, where were they looking? And so they went, well, yeah, they were over by the mosasaur area. And so they found it and brought it to our attention. And so we went back and like, okay, well, maybe this is finally the skull that we're looking for. And we were extremely excited because, I mean, this is the skull. This is what we've been waiting for. So we came back. Here's our 2012, 2014 quarry down here. But this is where the skull came from, was back in here. Okay. 2015, 2016, we're working on the skull, but because of how unstable this hillside is, we can get slumping that occurs. So you can get the level up here is actually the same as the lower levels because it slid down the hillside. So we were like, okay, well, yeah, maybe the body just slid down the hillside, you know, away from the skull. That could totally happen. And so we kept working, and we ended up finding, here we have the original jaw that was in there. That piece of jaw that was held in the tissue paper in that first picture actually hooks onto the base of this original jaw. So we knew, like, this is the skull that this jaw part came from. So we're very excited. Working on some of the backbones, some of the cervical vertebra that are sticking through here. And it was a giant case of Tetris, where we had to worm our way between some of the bones in here in order to take them out in a little bit more manageable sized packages. Otherwise, the package would have been as big as me. And I don't feel like lifting that much dirt and rock all at once. So if we can take it in bite-sized pieces, that makes it much easier for us. So we wormed our way in between, and we very carefully removed what we could remove, and we packaged up in big plaster cocoons, all the rest of it. We're very, very excited about this backbone. I mean, they had the whole section of the neck coming right up to the base of the skull. The thing I should mention is this isn't a pretty looking skull. Like, this isn't what you think of as a skull when you visit a museum and you see these pretty skulls on display, because mosasaurs, we've discovered, when they die, they kind of do this bloat and float thing where they turn and they tilt and they go nose down and then they pop. I know this is gross, but they pop and they just kind of collapse in on each other and turn into a giant pile of reptile goo down at the bottom of the ocean. So they're never really pretty unless they're buried very, very, very quickly. And this was no exception. So again, we have our quarry up here, other quarry down there. Remember those ash layers? Yeah. The problem that we ran into is there was actually ash layers in between that skull quarry and the body quarry. And after years of doing the preparation on those fossils, so between the ash, which was a definite barrier in between the two specimens, and we actually had some overlapping bones in the neck and shoulder area, it was determined that no, this is actually a separate animal. Okay, so now we have two mosasaurs out there. That's pretty cool. Two mosasaurs is better than one mosasaur, right? We've got a head with no body and a body with no head. Close enough, it's still pretty cool. And we found that our new skull was probably a new species of mosasaur. So here we have in red all of the bones that we were able to collect from that new skull. We're missing the very top part of the skull, which is sad because that's one of those diagnostic features. So we're missing the diagnostic part, but we do have these pterygoid teeth in here, and nice, beautiful jaws, beautiful premaxilla, snout of the animal. So enough to start figuring out who in the world this animal is. And one of the things about these pterygoid teeth is that in all of the known mosasaurs, you were looking at a very low number of teeth. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's like you're supposed to have about 8 or 9 of these low teeth in here in the roof of the mouth, and our animal had like 16. A lot. So definitely something different. So we don't just find mosasaurs at this site, but I've got to find all kinds of fun stuff at this site. We also find fish fossils, fish of all sizes. We find little teeny tiny fish, and we'll find little tiny fish vertebra the size of your pinky nail or smaller. We'll find big, these xiphactinous fish bones. It's called the bulldog tarpon. So these very, very large fish, and these vertebra can be like 2 or 3 inches in diameter. So very, very large backbones, depending on what kind of fish you're looking at. Even this last year, we ended up finding a fish skull, which was very impressive, and probably about 3 or 4 partial fish skeletons with all different sizes, scales, so separate fish. Right, of course, the last day. It's always on the last day, but we found a number of fish at this site. I mean, most of the stores got to eat something, right? We find sharks, lots of sharks out there, but we're not finding skeletons. We're finding teeth. Sharks have a cartilage body instead of a bone skeleton. So they're cartilaginous fish, but their teeth are bone. And so their teeth, when they're scavenging on the carcasses of other animals, mosasaurs, fish, turtles, whatever, they are constantly shedding their teeth as well. Shark teeth are extremely common. And so we do find shark teeth at this site. We haven't found at this specific site in the Pembina Gorge the elasmosaurs or plesiosaurs, these long-necked marine reptiles, but they are definitely found in the area. We had a landowner that came up and in the back of their pickup truck, they just parked at the bottom of the hill and flagged us down and, hey, can you come look at this? And we came down and looking at these chunks of rock and bone in the back of their pickup truck. By golly, we were staring at 3 beautiful plesiosaur vertebra. So think like Loch Ness Monster. I mean, these were bones from my Loch Ness Monster. And I got into paleontology because I like monsters. And so me staring at one of the creatures that like mythology and the loch and everything and griffins and dragons. Yeah, this is my cup of tea. So like I was getting goosebumps because like this is my baby here. But they did allow us to take them briefly, clean them up, make casts of them, and then we returned the fossils to the landowner, but it was very, very kind of them to let us borrow them so that we could make copies of them. So just to prove that there are these other animals that are out in these in this area, and things for the locals to look for too, especially if they're wandering their own property. We had, like I said, in the previous slides where we had the green and the red counties down in the southwestern corner of North Dakota in Bowman County, we have another outcrop of the shale material, this pure shale it's called. And in that shale, they found a section of 15 neck bones, all articulated in this jacket down here at the bottom picture. So 15 bones, all beautifully preserved in a row of one of these plesiosaurs. And here in the red box would be about how long that would be in that neck. Now, these animals would have about 70, that's 70 bones in their neck before you get to their body. And so here was a nice long chunk of it. So we were very excited to have another sample of these marine reptiles that lived within this western interior seaway. Hopefully we'll find more. They're pretty exciting. We also find birds. Believe it or not, birds are very, very rare just because of how hollow and how fragile their bones are. They get squashed into little bird pancakes by the rock really easy. You can probably hear the cat yowling in the distance. That's Desi. So you can find these birds, but if you notice on the mouth of the bird here, it actually has teeth in the beak. So this primitive bird has teeth, and it has shrunk its wings down into just this little tiny splint of bone. So it does not have any functional like actual arms. So it's not going to be able to paddle with its arms at all like a penguin does, but it has expanded its legs out and has very, very large flipper feet. So more lobed, like this picture is incorrect on the top left. It would have more like lobed feet, like a grebe. So with very, very wide paddling sections on those toes. So we actually found a couple of bird bones last year too on our previous zip back here. On our previous trip before the public came out, as we always go up and down the hill to make sure nothing is weathering out that we're going to skip over. And we actually found, I think, about 4 or 5 neck bones from one of these diving birds, which was very exciting because they're very rare. So to come across 3 or 4, even 5 of these bones all within one small pocket, it's very, very rare, very exciting. We also find, excuse me, we find turtles, big archelon. So this would be a sea turtle the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. It's a very large turtle. It's a very impressive turtle. So we have the skeleton of one of these on display in our Heritage Center here in town as well. But it's an impressive sized turtle when you have a tyrannosaur for scale in the background of your picture. That's a big turtle. We haven't found any turtles at this site specifically, but we have found them in North Dakota, especially in the Cooperstown area. We have found bits and pieces of these animals. Another animal that's relatively rare to come across are giant squid. So our squid out here, the big one is called Tusoteuthis, and we're kind of likening this squid battle, like in modern times you have these sperm whales that are attacking or eating the giant squid currently. And so they come up to the surface and you can see scars all over their faces due to the suckers and the hooks on their tentacles and their arms. And so we figure, well, maybe they were doing the same kind of thing with the mosasaur. Maybe not, but it's kind of fun to imagine. So whether or not they were being fed upon or eating mosasaurs, or how they were interacting with them, there were still very large squids and octopus that were roaming these waters. Now, this bone up at the top that's broken into many pieces, this is called a pen bone or a gladius. And if you've ever prepared out calamari for yourself, if anybody's ever cooked calamari, you can get it from we can get it from our grocery store. I'm assuming you guys are closer to the water than we are, so maybe you can find it too. But you actually have to remove this support system from the animal before you eat it. And so this is a rigid support system that is inside the head of these squid. So unlike a shelled nautilus, where the shell is on the outside of the animal, these creatures have their hard part, their shell, on the inside of their mantle. And the bone up here that at the top is actually 6 feet long. So from one end to the other, this gladius is 6 feet long, meaning that with tentacles, you're at least looking at an animal that's 25, 30 feet long. That's pretty good sized. Let's see. Just got to clear my throat here for a second. Okay. Come on, work. So how do we go about getting these things out of the ground? Lots of digging, lots of getting dirty. Depending on what year you've come out with us or where the hot spots are producing, we may shift people back and forth depending. Some areas dry up so that you're not able to find a whole bunch of fossils, and we want people to be able to find or have the best opportunity for discovery that they can. So we may move people back and forth. This is the top of a new area that we had opened up. We had worked our way all the way from the bottom, all the way up to the top, because there was some bone weathering out and falling down the hillside. So we climbed our way slowly up the top, building shelves as we went, digging our way up. And we have to dig into the hillside and kick all that dirt out behind us, because it's all getting bulldozed away anyways. We don't have to worry about hauling buckets of dirt to a designated location like some of our sites. This one, we just kick it right behind us. It's great. You can like pretend you're a happy-go-lucky puppy dog out there and just like dig, get rid of all of your excess. It's great. The kids love it. You just set the youngins like, yeah, go ahead, go dig through the dirt, and like the dirt flies. It's great. You don't have to lift a finger. It's pretty easy. But getting up to some of the spots does require a little bit of care and dedication and sure-footedness. So your ankles actually get really tired. If you're not sitting in a quarry section where we've pushed the hill back 4 or 5 feet and you're sitting right on the edge of the hill, your ankles can get really sore. Your calf muscles are amazing by the end of the summer. So here we have Trissa in the pink and Clint in the neon green, and we're working on pulling out actually a fish fossil, an Encodus fish fossil, right, of course, at the last hour of the last day. This is after the public has been sent home, and we have just started plastering these 2 little jackets so we can bring them safely back to the lab. Now, like I said, this dirt, this shale does not react well to water. It gets gooey and it falls apart. So in order to get this stuff back to the lab, we can't just pick things up and move them because the whole thing falls apart. And the bones out here are preserved with gypsum, which is not friendly. It's very, very soft. It's the same material that makes up plaster and sheetrock. And it gets frustrating at times because some of our sites, the bones are preserved with iron, so they're very durable, or they're preserved with silica, the same thing that's making up nice, sturdy agates. These are not. These are super soft. I can scratch them with my fingernail, and it's really sad when you're holding something and it just crumbles to dust. So we have to do our best in order to let them dry out. We cap them in this plaster jacket, let them dry out some more, flip them over, haul them back to the lab, and then prepare them with very fine dental tools, actually. We can't use a lot of power tools on these fossils just because of how delicate they are. So flat benches. When we're digging out here, we can always tell the people that have had archaeological training because we get perfect benches and perfect squares. But for paleontology, which is everything except humans, we believe that animals don't die in square holes. So we deal with flat benches, yes, but we're not so concerned with making nice, pretty squares in the ground because we need to stretch these squares all along the length of the hillside, depending on where those fossils are. But in order to make sure we don't skip anything, we want to make sure that we just kind of clear out entire sections nice and even. Because a lot of people, when they first get out there and they've never dug before, they tend to dig pits. And so you'll come along, nice flat bench, and all of a sudden it goes kind of dips severely down into the ground, and you can tell that they're maybe going after, maybe they found something, and so they're trying to dig after that something. But the problem with that is that you have a lot of extra dirt around you, so you still have to remove all of the high dirt before you can get to your low fossil. And so it's safer for that fossil to actually keep it as buried for as long as possible before you lower everything down to it. And then you can dig it out. Here we have fish bones. You can kind of tell by the shadow around the square in the middle that this is a raised pedestal. Sometimes the rock cooperates with us, and you can actually peel away sections, or there will be a vertical section of the ash layer that has wormed its way down through the cracks. And so the shale will break away in a nice square fashion. It's very convenient. And here we have a partial fish skeleton that is just isolated sitting on top of this rock. So what we're going to do then is cap this whole entire rectangle, this little mushroom here, with that plaster material and bring it back to the lab where we can prepare out all of the fish bones that are sitting in the middle. It's dirty work. Those are actually Clint's handprints on the back of his shirt. Nobody gave him a hug. He just kind of finished plastering and then rested his hands on the back of his out. Now, it's not always the case. You see the nice big splat of a handprint higher up, and well, maybe somebody got a high five. But you can see these big plaster cocoons. They're ready to go, and we're busy worming our way through, trying to make them a little bit more manageable so that we're not dealing with a 500-pound package of rock and dirt and plaster. Maybe we're only dealing with 70 pounds. And 70 pounds I can lift. 500, not so much. So we have to just work our way through. But it's plaster, it's burlap, we've got our blue jug of water here, and everything that we need we have to haul up to the site. lunchtime. Ah, sadly, this is a thing of the past. I'm sorry, Bev. No more lunches. It's a rough time. We're gonna have to brown bag it. We used to, this was our like frou-frou dig. It was the only site that we would go to where we had food, we had porta potties. I mean, it was amazing. Not so much anymore. We still have the porta potties. Don't worry, porta potties are there. You don't have to go find a choke cherry bush or anything like that. But no lunches. We'll still have the tents, but we used to haul out meals, and so we would have catered lunches, and it was kind of a nice break in the middle of the day. Or if you got overheated, then you could head down to the shade tent and take a breather to relax for a little bit. We always had the coolers out with water in order to make sure that everybody stayed nice and hydrated, because you are sitting on the side of a hill with black rock, and when the sun is beating down on you, you are getting the heat of the sun hitting you as well as reflected back from that rock, and it gets really hot. Like I said, it gets really hot. Now, this is a vehicle that's sitting out there, so this isn't like actual temperature. This is like vehicle cooking temperature, but that's probably about what it feels like out on the rock as well. So we do get some hot days. There's a sample of some of the creatures that we had discovered from that area. So our big Xiphactinus, or anything from 13 to 20 feet long on that really big fish in the front. We have our 6-foot long pen bone of the gigantic squid sitting on the ocean floor, our white bones of the most sore off on the right, and our Archelon, the swimming sea turtle, up above that. So it gives kind of a sampling of some of the different animals that are out here. So where does Bev come in? Oh, drum roll. 2017, Bev joined us on her first excursion out here in the Pembina Gorge. And these are some of the first pictures that I got of Bev. Don't you just love her smiling face? No, this is my usual view of pretty much all diggers. Is everybody has their nose in the dirt, and so I get to see the backs of people's shirts and their hats, and that's about it. So we usually have to get a little cozy in there before we want to start seeing people, or when we're taking a break. But everybody just gets so enthusiastic with digging that we always got to see what we're into. So if you didn't know, Bev is the one in the teal shirt and the straw hat here. And she is busy working in tandem with a number of other diggers. Right out of this area, this was the first area we were finding some of our fish in. So this was a fishy day. We then started working on an isolated mosasaur bone, and Bev, off to the left in the tan shirt, was assisting Bob and a couple of other peoples in slowly digging around this mosasaur bone that was smack dab in the middle. So she got some hands-on experience right away, just jump right into the fray. And digging, and digging, and digging. So sometimes these jackets can take all day or multiple days to remove. And so Bev was busy working on getting this mosasaur bone out. Digging. You see, there's a lot of common themes here. There's a lot of shovel work. Although we said you don't have to use the shovel. There are plenty of grunts that can take care of the shovel. And Bev like just about snarled like a grizzly bear as she grabs the shovel. She's like, "No, I must shovel." So she was quite the workhorse out there. You can see she's got a nice, beautiful flat bench going. So she's following directions very well. We didn't have to yell at Bev. Had to yell at some other people, but didn't have to yell at Bev. On introduction, you can see everybody is spaced out along the edges of the hillside. We usually have different areas designated for how stable people are on their feet or how afraid of heights they are. So there are some areas that are a little bit lower. And where's Bev? Yeah, here's Bev again in the brown shirt and straw hat, shoveling away. Good luck prying that from her fingers. But she was happy, as per her smiling face right here. I love this picture. This is such a good picture of Bev. She's very happy. Always had a smile on her face. She was very enthusiastic. Working. Here she is in the front, digging away. this is a good perspective. It kind of shows how far up the hillside we are. This is working at one of our secondary quarries where that mosasaur skull was located. So the mosasaur would be back by the woman in the very, very bright orange shirt, kind of stretching out across. We're finding a number of fish bones and bird bones throughout there. Oh, and then the year of 2020. Can you tell it's 2020? I don't know how you could tell it's 2020. Yeah, this is our year of the pandemic, and everybody was wearing masks. And this particular picture was actually taken because my daughter, who was 6 at the time of this picture, was absolutely paranoid and terrified that I was out and about dealing with a whole bunch of people and that nobody was wearing masks and Mama was going to die. So she was very, very worried. And so I had to prove to her that everybody was following directions. We were all masked and we were being as safe as possible. And so I had a couple of people in my van, Bev included, who were willing to take a photograph with me in order to send to my daughter to prove that we were being safe. So it made her very happy. It made for a good picture too. Good reference, right? More masks. Yes, 2020 was quite the year. Getting ready to dig back at the Pembina site again. Had a couple of experienced diggers on this particular day, which is always good. Everybody's excited. We have an infamous pair of glasses that got lost on our trip here. So we've had a stretch of people. Most of the people are wearing, this is actually one big party of people. So they were actually okay for not wearing masks. And we don't expect people to wear masks in the middle of the heat because it kind of, it defeats the purpose of keeping the mask clean. If you've got to pull the mask down, take a drink, put the mask back up, and you're getting dirt and stuff all over it, and it just doesn't work. Yeah, but this was actually a full team of doctors and physicians, and they were determined and they were going to wear masks. So it's like, that is up to you, personal preference. Everybody's spaced out. It looks like we're really close together, but it's a forced perspective shot. We're actually, and then way in the background there, if you can see Clint, he actually photobombed us. It was pretty funny as he was he was waiting for me to take this picture, and right as I hit, click, he went skidding down the hillside. So we've got him in the bright yellow shirt in the background, skiing down the hill. And it is quite the drop off in there, but he was fine. But yes, so Beth may have made a little bit more rapid descent than anticipated and left a part of her behind. We'll be mailing those back tomorrow. We rediscovered them in the lab, so we'll get those sent back. And here we have, is the video working? I get like thumbs up, is the video working? Good. A bunch of people were walking or jumping down the hillsides, and Bev's like, I can do the walking thing. And she's like, never, I'm gonna just scooch. Ta-da, success. Nope. There we go. But not every day is a good day. Some days, and Bev got hit with this, we got out there and we dug, and we had to turn around really quick because we'd had a thunderstorm that decided to work its way through, and we got a little drenched. Yeah, it was a little moist out that day. And for the next few days after, sadly. So on those right days, it's really hard to go out and dig because of just how sticky everything gets. And if we try to dig even the day after when it's not raining and the dirt is still wet, A, it glues itself to you, and B, it actually kind of destroys the fossils. So we have to wait for the sun to come out and completely bake that dirt again before we can actually go and dig again. So we did lose a couple days to this, but Bev was quite the star. And that is the end of my slideshow. There we go. So now I am happy to answer any questions, or Bev, our star of the show.
All right. Since we don't have a whole lot of people, we can just unmute if you want to ask Bev or Becky any kind of questions about it. I was there. I was in a motorhome, in our motorhome in a RV park, and probably reading most of the time.
Muted.
You went golfing too.
Oh, I went golfing, yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, 2017. Les was the star of the show too, because, oh, Bev wanted to come back out on one of those last days of digging. And, oh, I'm sorry, we're all full. We don't have any room. And they drove by to say goodbye on the very last day. And like, oh, we wish we could, oh, we actually have an opening. Somebody canceled. She's like, what, really? So if you noticed it in one of those last pictures, you can yeah, reverse when Les gets this up in video form. There's one picture of Bev and she's wearing sandals, which are not approved dig wear, because she dove out of the car. She went racing up the side of the hill and she told us, go get my stuff. And that was it.
How many days are these digs usually?
The digs across North Dakota last pretty much all summer, so anywhere from mid-June through mid-August. But each site we last between two to 4 weeks, depending on the site.
Oh, so like Bev would be there for 2 to 4 weeks at one
No.
time? No.
We actually have people sign up for 1 day, 2 days, 4 days,
Okay.
whatever your schedule allows.
Okay.
Or I think, are we, yeah. I think we were limited because it was such a popular dig. I think we were limited to like a week or something like that, unless we begged and begged. And sometimes we could get a little bit more. And or if we knew the right people, we could ask and beg and sometimes get more.
Okay.
Bev, what was your most exciting find?
Oh, it was that mosasaur bone, that little neck bone that was about, it was about this long.
Okay.
It was so exciting. But you know, I think the most exciting thing was knowing about that pterygoid bone. I mean, I know I've taken a lot of head and neck anatomy and a lot of anatomy, human anatomy.
Mm.
And just know, because we have the pterygoid bone, in our own, but of course we don't have the teeth in them. And just comparing, the mosasaur to the human and the snake, the way it bites like a snake. It has parts of the human anatomy too. It's really a fascinating creature.
Bev, would you sit closer to your husband so we can see you while you're talking?
She doesn't want to. She lost a tooth.
No, I broke a tooth.
Oh, okay.
And I look funny. And after next week, I'm going to get it fixed. I'm going back to Minnesota to get it fixed. But I will go across here and I will.
There she is. Thank you.
There's a little digger.
What sort of training do you get before you go on the dig, if anything?
So we treat most of the people who have come out with us have never been on a dig. Maybe about 50% have returned, but I mean, they've all started off knowing nothing as well. So the start of my day is teaching everybody what to do, how to dig, what to look for. And so I spend a good chunk of the morning or the beginning of every single day tutoring people what to do. And then we spend the entire rest of the day going back and forth between participants to make sure that they understand or see if they need help, so that there's a lot of hands-on assistance during the day. So usually by the end of the morning, like if you're there for a full day, by the end of the morning, you've got a good handle on how you're supposed to be digging and what you're going to be looking for, so that by the end of the day, you are totally ready to come back for another day.
It's a great presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Any other questions out there or comments?
Bev, you going back again?
Oh yeah. There are other digs that are, I mean, this one is wonderful, but I'm thinking that there are other ones that are completely different that
Hello.
that use different kinds
Okay,
of
how are you?
skills, like in Bismarck. You know, you actually do chipping on rocks and things like that, right?
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, so we have,
I can't hear you, Becky.
No,
Oh.
I
Oh,
screwed
she put
up.
on, she put on mute.
I screwed up.
Oh, you put on mute.
Okay. Linda, are you going or is it Marla who's going?
No, I'm interested.
Oh,
Okay,
good.
Elaine, she's saying go. Go.
You coming with me, Marcia?
No, no, positively not. No, not me.
This is perfect for her.
It's right up my alley, right?
Oh,
Oh,
Linda.
really? Have fun. Well,
You
thank you
know
so
that.
much. This was really
It was
Yes,
an
fascinating.
experience. Let's put it that way. Even though you don't want to do it, it's nice to watch somebody else do it.
Right.
just
It's
before
fun.
before we do break off, just want to let everybody know our next program will be a week from today. It'll be at 1 o'clock next Wednesday. We're
Okay.
showing the movie called Paper Clips. And that's something that Gary and Larry Gravitz have a series of movies, and that's the first one they'll be showing next week. Yes.
Well, I saw the movie and I can highly recommend it. It's done so well. And my son-in-law and grandson went and visited it. They made a
Okay.
trip just to do it. So it is it's a sad place, but it's so well presented that I think that I would recommend it to anybody.
It's a story of a teacher trying to impress upon kids in a Christian community the impact of 6 million people dying in the Holocaust and using paper clips as a way to get that point across.
Yes, I've heard of it.
So,
I've heard about the theory. I haven't seen the movie. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank
thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Becky.
Thank
Hold
you.
on, hold on.
Okay.
a second.
Bye.
Good luck with your tooth, Deb.
Bye.
Since we're
Yeah.
doing promotional things,
Yes.
next Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. with the Forum Club, we have, it happens to be on St. Patrick's Day. So we have a professor from Minnesota who's doing all things St. Patty's Day and Irish. If anybody would like to get an invite to that, either send me or Mike an email and we'll make sure you get invited. And then if you want to see Becky again on the 24th at 9 a.m., she's going to be doing not a Bev sliding down the hill presentation, but a more general one. And again, if you want to be invited to that, just let us know and we'll make sure we get you an invitation.
Thanks.
Okay.
Anything else, Mike?
I don't think so. Thank you all for attending. And, we're only as good as our constituents. So if you have some ideas for other programs, please let Les or me know. We have a whole series of ones that we'll be planning, or if you'd like to participate in our program committee, we meet once a month. We'll be meeting again on March 19th, I believe.
I think it is.
A week from Friday morning. So thank you. And thanks again, Becky. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Super
Thank you,
job,
Becky.
Becky.
Good one.
We'll see you this summer.